So you want to achieve soft, washed out photos like this? Stick around and find out how. Hey guys, what's going on? Miles here with an all-new photography video. In this video, we are going to be checking out a Lightroom tutorial to achieve soft, washed-out photos like this. It's a popular trend that is all over Instagram lately, and it is fairly simple to do. Now remember too, before we jump into this tutorial, if you like these videos and you'd like to see more, make sure to smash that subscribe button down below, guys. I would really appreciate all the support. And let's dive in and check out how to achieve this look. Alrighty guys, so starting off, as you can see, I got this cool photo pulled up. I got an old telescope on top of an antique table. As you can tell, it's already kind of washed out, but I'm still going to go through and show you what I did to achieve this look, and we're going to even tweak it just a hair to give it that really washed out look. So let's jump in and check this out. So the first thing I did when editing this photo is I came down to this profile correction. Now I do this no matter what photo I'm editing. This is always my first step. Depending on the type of lens you use, this may or may not be a dramatic change. For me, I didn't notice a whole lot when I enabled it, but it's just the first step I always take. Next, once I've clicked that on, I like to come up here and play with my tones. As you can see, this photo was a little overexposed, so I dropped my exposure and my contrast just a hair to really make sure that it was in the center of my histogram. I also came in and played with my highlights and my shadows. Now, I like to drop the highlights in my photos. That's not necessarily always a good thing. That's just something I typically like to do. I also like to pump up my shadows quite a bit. Moving down, we got our whites and our blacks. Now this is kind of important, especially if you're looking for more of that washed out look. You need to up your whites a hair. Now you don't have to go crazy with it. I went a little bit overboard with mine, but you want those whites to kind of give it that washed out look. So upping it just a bit will help you out in the long run. As you can see here, I increased it to 45. You don't need to go that extreme, but you do need to up it just a hair. The other thing, I did darken my blacks a bit. I don't like to go crazy with that, especially because in this photo, if I darkened it anymore, I would lose a bunch of detail, especially at the bottom of this telescope here. It just get dark and you couldn't tell the detail in the photo. So I left it at -5. Moving along, we got the presence. Now this is really where I start to make adjustments as far as getting that washed out look. If you've ever looked at those photos, you'll notice that the colors are kind of faded. They're not extremely bright. They're kind of mellowed out, and you can start to achieve that down here. The first thing you'll notice is I dropped my clarity by quite a bit. And then I came down and played with this DA's vibrance and saturation, and I brought them all down just a bit to really mellow this photo out and kind of kill off the colors. I didn't want the colors overpowering. If you leave the colors up too much, you won't get as crazy of a washed out look. It'll look like you just laid a white filter over top of your photo, and that's not exactly what you're trying to achieve. So by bringing down your colors and just really bringing down the vibrance, the dehazing, and the saturation, you'll kind of mellow out your photo. So once you've achieved that and you play with it, you'll come down to the tone curve, and then this is really where you're gonna get that washed out look. So the first thing, I'm gonna do this in live for you guys. The first thing I would do is I'll add 3 points to my S curve here. And I just kind of told you what I'm going to do, but I like to bring my midpoint down just a bit. I up my highlights, something like that, and I'll bring this point down. Now I don't want to go crazy here, so I'm going to do something like that. Something like that. Now again, I would spend quite a bit of time here playing with this, but for us, we're going to go a little bit quick. The next thing I'll do is I'll add a point up here, lift my highlights just a little bit more, and then take this final point over on the right and really drop it down. That just takes the edge off the highlights, especially since you're pumping up the whites. You're really pumping up the exposure of this photo to get that washed out look. You really want to make sure you kill the edge so you're not overexposing your photos. That's one thing I notice a lot of times is people forget to do that, and your photo becomes just overexposed. So by dropping that at the very end, you kind of take away the bright white and kind of mellow it out to more of a gray look. And that's what you're trying to achieve. Again, I'll come in here, keep playing with it. And then finally, to get that washed out look, you take this end point here and you really start to pump it up. Now, you don't want to go crazy like this because you'll get a weird ghosting effect, but you do want to bring it up a little bit. And sometimes I'll even come in and add another point here to bring my shadows down a little bit more. And I'll really come in here and start to play with my shadows. And I would go something like that. Now this is a little extreme. Again, I would come in and play with this for quite a bit. Whoop, accidentally added another point there. And something like that. So as you can see, we really took this leather and kind of killed the color on it. Same thing with this gold. Kind of really desaturated this photo. Looking pretty good. If we do the before and after here, you can see this is what we started with. You know, we got a really dark leather that's kind of now, you know, washed out. If we take a look at the metal, we kind of just took the edge off it. And even the table, we brought out, you know, the shadows of the table kind of made these lines in here, these markings at least, a little bit more present and, in my opinion, a little bit better. If we come over here, you can kind of see, you know, just how that table's changed. So once I'm happy with my S-curve, the final touches I do is I like to come down here and I'll come to my HSL. I'll play with it a little depending on the colors. For this photo, I brought the saturation down and played with the luminance on the yellows, the oranges, and the red. Again, those are the most prevalent colors in this photo, but every photo varies, so you might have some other colors like a green or blue that you want to do it to. For me, those were my main colors in this photo, so I brought those down to kind of, again, kill that saturation and kill the color. The next thing I did is I played with my sharpening and my noise reduction. Again, I kind of have go-to settings that I always go to, so I just entered those in real quick. I didn't have to do a whole lot to this because it was pretty well when I took the photo, but sometimes I got to play with this a little bit more or less depending on the type of photo. And then the final thing I do is I like to come down here and really play with my vignetting. Again, because you're increasing those whites in the photo and your highlights, sometimes the edges can get a little blown out, and especially if you have a person that you're trying to make the focal point of the photo, with the white edges and stuff, sometimes it doesn't draw the viewers, doesn't, you know, draw their attention to the subject. It kind of, you can kind of, you know, make your attention kind of the whole photo instead of the subject. So what I like to do is by adding a little bit of a vignetting, kind of draws your perspective in and focuses it more on the subject. Again, that's really up to you. That's my personal opinion. Sometimes I'll do more or less of a vignette depending on how bad my edges are, especially with the highlights. But in this photo, they were extremely blown out because of the lighting. So I added quite a bit of a vignette there to really draw it in on that telescope.
Alrighty guys, so there you have it, a quick Lightroom tutorial on how to achieve soft washed out photos. Now remember too, if you like these videos and you'd like to see more, smash that subscribe button down below guys, and I will be catching you in the next video. Alrighty guys, peace!